Ever feel like you're, living the same day over and
Yeah.
over, like trapped in this loop you just can't seem to break free from?
Ugh. Yeah, I know that feeling.
Well, that's the question haunting Kane, the protagonist of the Eternal Conversation.
Hmm.
And today, we're diving deep into his story and exploring themes of self-discovery, the weight of regret, and, well, the fluid nature of time itself.
And what's so captivating about this work is how it really like embodies these universal anxieties, you know? It weaves them into the very fabric of this mysterious cafe that Kane stumbles upon.
Yeah, right from the first page, you're pulled into this shadowy, almost film noir setting.
Oh, totally.
Kane's wandering the city at night, desperate to escape his own thoughts when he finds himself drawn to this cafe.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if the place itself is calling out to him,
Mm.
you know, promising answers he didn't even know he was searching for.
It's like that feeling of being lost and then stumbling upon something that just feels right, even if you don't know why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's within the walls of this cafe that Kane is forced to confront these, like, really deep fears and desires,
Right.
guided by this enigmatic stranger who seems to know him better than he knows himself.
Yeah, and what I find so fascinating is how the cafe becomes this space where like the boundaries of time become blurred.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like mirroring Kane's own internal struggle.
It's so true. 1 minute time is just crawling by, and then the next, it's as if hours have just vanished. And this distortion, it's not just some quirky detail. It really reflects how our own perception of time is, like, totally influenced by our emotional state.
100%.
Think about a time when you were dreading something you know. How every second just seemed to drag on forever.
Ugh. Or conversely, when you're so caught up in a moment of joy or excitement, and the hours just seem to disappear.
Yeah, like, where did the time go?
Exactly. And the story uses this kind of distorted time to really emphasize how trapped Kane feels by his past, by the choices he's made, the regrets he carries. It's heavy stuff.
It is, and this brings us to, I think, the crux of his dilemma. This loop he's caught in.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole loop thing because it's more than just, Kane making a few bad decisions here and there.
Right.
It's like this repeating pattern of self-sabotage, you know?
Yeah.
Driven by fear and always leading to the same unsatisfying outcome.
It's like he's running on a hamster wheel,
Yeah.
going through the motions but not actually getting anywhere.
Exactly. And the story brilliantly lays out how this loop manifests in Kane's life. It's a series of choices, right?
Mm.
But they all stem from this one pivotal moment. A moment where he let fear dictate a major life decision. One he later realizes went against everything he truly desired.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think this is where a lot of listeners might find themselves nodding along, you know? We've all experienced those moments where fear or obligation, societal pressure, even pushed us down a path that wasn't truly ours.
It's so easy to let those external pressures dictate our choices.
It is. But here's the real mind-bender in the story. Kane discovers that the stranger he's been pouring his heart out to this whole time,
Yeah.
it's actually himself, but from the future. Talk about a plot twist.
Whoa, okay, now that's a curveball I was not expecting.
Right. Imagine going through life feeling stuck,
Yeah.
and then boom, you come face to face with a version of yourself who confirms that, yeah, you are definitely on the wrong track.
That would be intense. Like,
Wow.
really, really intense.
It would be. And what I find compelling is that it's not presented as this predetermined fate, you know?
Hmm.
The story doesn't suggest that Kane is powerless to change his path.
Okay.
Instead, this encounter with his future self, it serves as a catalyst,
Okay.
It forces him to confront the choices he's making in the present and how they are directly contributing to the future he so desperately wants to avoid.
It's kind of like that saying, right? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting.
Oh, absolutely.
And Kane's caught in this, like, self-perpetuating cycle, but then bam, seeing the consequences firsthand, it's like a wake-up call.
Yeah, it lights a fire under him, for sure. He becomes desperate to break free.
Right, like, get me out of here.
Exactly. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Kane's desperation. It becomes the very thing that's holding him back.
Oh, wow. So it's like the more he tries to escape.
The more trapped he becomes, he's so fixated on like outrunning his future self, erasing the past,
Yeah.
that he can't see the solution right in front of him.
So it's not enough to just want to change. There's something else he needs to do.
Yeah. The story really highlights this paradox of change. Often the more we try to force it, the harder it gets.
It's like quicksand, right? The more you struggle to get out, the faster you sink.
That's a great analogy. For Kane, true liberation requires a totally different approach. This shift from external struggle to internal acceptance.
Okay, now we've got to talk about this enigmatic waitress.
Oh, yeah, she's fascinating.
Up until this point, she's been this silent observer.
Just watching everything unfold.
But her presence,
Mm-hmm.
it takes on this whole new meaning as Kane's grappling with his situation.
Totally.
There's this one scene I love where she quietly assures him that he is on the right path, but he needs to trust the process, which is way easier said than done when you're stuck in a loop.
For sure. And, you know, the waitress, she embodies this kind of intuitive wisdom, like this gentle guide for Kane's journey.
I see that.
She doesn't give him all the answers or offer these easy solutions, but her presence. It's a good reminder for Kane and for us as readers to look inward. Her quiet guidance really underscores this idea that breaking free from the loop, it's not about finding a magic formula or outrunning your past. It's about confronting those inner demons, you know, those really deeply rooted fears and regrets that have been driving this whole cycle.
And that's got to be terrifying. I mean, wanting to change is one thing, but to actually face those parts of ourselves we've been avoiding,
Yeah.
it's a whole other level of difficulty.
It is, and the story doesn't shy away from that.
Yeah.
There's this raw honesty to Kane's internal struggle, as he realizes that true freedom comes from confronting those uncomfortable truths, not from trying to erase them or outrun them.
So how does he finally make that shift? How does he go from desperation to acceptance?
Well, there's this pivotal moment where Kane finally makes a choice that's not based on fear.
Okay.
It's not about escaping anymore, but on this newfound trust in himself.
Wow.
And it's not this grand gesture or anything. It's this quiet understanding, you know,
Yeah.
that he's ready to face whatever comes his way. And in that moment of surrender,
Yeah.
of accepting where he is and the choices that led him there, that's when the cycle begins to break.
And visually, this is represented by the cafe itself, right? Like it literally vanishes as Kane walks away,
Exactly.
symbolizing his break from this loop. And suddenly the city, which once felt so oppressive and dark,
Yeah.
it's like it's bursting with life and possibility.
It's such a powerful visual reminder that our external reality, it often reflects our internal state. You know, as Kane confronts his fears and accepts his past, his world literally transforms around him.
It's like when you're so focused on a problem, it takes over everything.
Right.
And then something shifts. Your perspective changes. And you can finally see beyond it.
Exactly. It's not that the problem disappears,
All right.
but it's hold on you lessons. And that's what's so powerful about Kane's transformation. He doesn't erase his past. He integrates it, learns from it.
He allows it to shape his future without defining it.
Exactly.
And this is where the eternal conversation, it becomes more than just a story. It's like it throws the question right back at us. you know?
it does.
We've gone on this whole journey with Kane through his struggles, his breakthroughs. But what about our own loops?
And that's what I love about this book. It's not about easy answers or some like one-size-fits-all solution to life's problems. It's like an invitation, you know, to really look at our own patterns. Those like recurring thoughts, decisions, relationships that just keep us stuck.
We all have them, even if they look different from Kane's.
Exactly.
I know I've definitely had those moments where I'm like replaying a conversation in my head,
Oh, tell me about it.
agonizing over a decision, wondering, what if I had just done things differently?
It's so easy to get caught in that spiral.
The worst.
And that's the trap the story is warning us about, you know? It's not about pretending our past didn't happen.
Right.
Or trying to like erase the choices we made.
Okay.
It's about changing how we relate to those experiences.
So instead of judgment,
Yes. Instead of all that judgment and self-criticism,
Yeah.
the story wants us to choose understanding and self-compassion.
it's like we're so busy beating ourselves up for past mistakes. We forget to give ourselves the same grace we'd give to a friend.
It's true.
But how do we actually do that? How do we go from judging ourselves to being kind to ourselves? Especially when it comes to those big choices we made that we still regret.
Well, the story offers a few good insights. First, we got to remember that every choice we made, even the ones we regret, we made them for a reason. We were working with the information and the resources and even the emotional maturity we had at the time.
So it's not about letting ourselves off the hook,
No, not at all.
but about understanding why we made those choices.
Exactly. And that leads to the second point, learning.
Okay?
Instead of looking at past mistakes as failures,
Yeah.
we can choose to see them as opportunities for growth. What did those experiences teach us? What wisdom did we gain?
It's like sometimes you need to get lost to really find yourself.
100%. And as we start to understand ourselves better, to have more compassion for ourselves,
Yeah,
it's like our world starts to change too, just like it did for Cain when he finally broke free.
because he faced those inner demons,
Yes.
and that's what allowed him to escape the cafe and see the city with new eyes. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but there was hope. This feeling that he was finally free from that prison he had built for himself.
And that's the message of the eternal conversation. It's not about reaching some perfect state of being.
Right.
It's about understanding that life is a journey
Mm.
with all its ups and downs. And those loops, those moments when we feel stuck, they're not the end.
There's just the beginning.
They're a chance to look inward, to be kind to ourselves, and to remember that we always have the power to choose a different path.
To step out of the darkness and into the light.
Exactly.
And that is where we'll leave you today. Until next time, keep exploring those big questions, and remember, there's always more to discover.